All right, welcome. Today, we are going to dive into something that could seriously change the way you learn, think, and even remember things. We're talking about unlocking a superpower that, believe it or not, you already have. You just might not be using it to its full potential. Let's get into it.
You know that feeling, right? You're studying for hours, you read a whole page of a book, you get to the bottom and you think to yourself, wait, what did I just read? It feels like your brain is a leaky bucket. It's super frustrating, especially with how much information is thrown at us every single day.
Well, here's the good news. That leaky bucket, it's not a permanent flaw. The problem isn't you, it's the method. See, most of us were taught to learn in a really straight, linear, text-based way. But our brains, they're built for so much more. There's a much better, way more natural way to get our minds firing on all cylinders.
And that brings us to the first big idea. We've got to stop just thinking in lines and lists and start thinking in pictures. It's all about learning how to use your entire brain. Think about it like this. Your brain has two sides, right? The left brain is your logical, analytical side. It loves words, numbers, order. Basically, it's the part that traditional school focuses on. But then you've got the right brain, and that's your creative powerhouse. It thinks in pictures, imagination, color, and rhythm. When we only learn with text and lists, we're basically trying to fly a plane with only one wing.
So the secret to really supercharging your learning isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's about bridging that gap between the two sides. When you finally combine that logic with imagination, you engage your whole brain, and that unlocks a way more powerful way to learn.
So how do we actually do that? Let's get practical. Our very first tool is an incredible way to take notes and organize all that information floating around in your head. I want you to think of it like a GPS for your thoughts.
This amazing tool is called a mind map. It was developed by a guy named Tony Buzan, and it's designed to work with your brain, not against it. You see, instead of a boring top-to-bottom list, a mind map starts with a central idea and then radiates outwards, just like the neurons in your brain. It immediately gets both your logical and your creative sides involved.
And you know what? It's surprisingly easy to get started. First is start with an image in the center, not just a word. That immediately gets your right brain fired up. Then you draw these thick, curved branches for your main ideas. None of those rigid, straight lines. On those branches, you just use single keywords. This forces your brain to make the connections. And finally, the fun part. Add color. Add little doodles and icons. Every single step makes the information more engaging and so much easier to remember.
And the payoff is huge. By getting your whole brain in on the action, mind maps seriously boost your memory, they spark creativity, and they actually make learning fun. Yeah, I said it. But okay, organizing information is only half the battle. What about remembering specific facts? Okay, so now we have a fantastic way to organize our thoughts. But how do we lock specific facts into our long-term memory? For that, we need to master the incredible power of association. So let's say you need to remember a new list of things, the shopping list, key points for a presentation, whatever. You need a place to store them in your mind. And the best place is a system you already know inside and out, something you could never, ever lose. And what do you know better than your own body? Exactly. This is the simple yet brilliant idea behind a technique called the body peg system.
Okay, here's how it works. It's so simple. You just assign numbers to different parts of your body. So, number 1 is the top of your head, 2 is your eyes, 3 is your nose, 4 your mouth, and so on. These become your mental pegs. And to remember a list, you just create a really vivid, crazy mental picture that connects each item to its body part. Now here's the real secret sauce. For these mental images to actually stick, they can't be boring. Our brains are hardwired to remember things that are weird, unusual, and surprising. It's an old survival instinct, right? You remembered the weird-looking berry that made you sick. Well, we're going to hijack that system by making our mental pictures completely and totally absurd. This is the magic formula right here. The mental picture you create, it needs to be exaggerated. It has to be fun, and it absolutely has to be illogical. Logic is the enemy of memory here. Creativity is your best friend. All right, you want to see it in action? Let's do a really quick one. We're going to use a number-shaped system, where each number looks like a thing. Our mission is to remember this sequence, 11, 12, 13.
First up, number 11. The two ones. Well, they look just like a pair of chopsticks. Easy enough.
Next, the number 12. Think about the 12 numbers on the face of a clock. So for us, 12 is now a clock. And finally, 13. Friday the 13th, bad luck. It's often associated with a witch on a broomstick. So 13 becomes a witch.
Now, we link them all together using that absurd formula. Don't just think about it. Really picture it. Imagine a giant pair of chopsticks just furiously attacking an old grandfather clock. Suddenly, the clock shatters and a cackling witch comes flying right out of it. Chopsticks, clock, witch. 11, 12, 13. See? That story is so ridiculous you're not going to be able to forget it.
So, now we have mind maps to organize our ideas and these crazy association techniques to remember facts. But learning these tools is one thing. Making them a real part of how you think every day, that's the real game changer.
And this is so important. These are not just clever party tricks. They are fundamental skills. Using them consistently is like taking your brain to the gym. You are literally building new pathways in your mind, retraining it to think more creatively and more effectively.
They say the magic number for forming a new habit is 21 days. So, here's a little challenge for you. Pick one of these techniques, maybe mind map an article you read, or use the body pegs for your grocery list, and just practice it for a few minutes every single day for 3 weeks. That consistency is what's going to forge those new connections and build that new mental muscle. Look, what we've just gone over is a toolkit for unlocking the incredible, often untapped power of your own mind. You have the ability to learn faster, remember more, and think more creatively than you probably ever thought was possible. The tools are right here. So the only question left is, how are you going to choose to activate your superpower?